both the commercial and the grammar sector of our secondary schools institutions, a program that brings teachers of different caliber, dimensions, and individual subject matters who have masteries of this subject, chief examiners, invigilators, in order to empower youth on some key aspects in order to tackle public examinations. This is Education Today.
At any point in time where a term is U up in any of the premises and that term becomes D, in the conclusion, our answer becomes what? Invalid, and hence it has committed the fallacy of what? Illicit, either major or what? Minor.
Welcome, televiewers. Welcome to another edition of Education Today, sponsored by the Mentors Foundation. On today's program, we shall be having two subjects, mathematics and literature in English, that will be taken by Mr. Simon Richard. But we shall begin today with mathematics, and on mathematics, we shall be dealing with functions. But first of all, we shall want to know what a function is. What is a function? A function is a rule that assigns elements of x to the elements of another set y. And the elements of x are usually called the domain, while the elements of y is called the co-domain. And of course, in a function, no two distinct elements of x is going to have the same first number. Now, functions, as we all know, can either be a one-to-one mapping or a one-to-one relation. So functions can either be a one-to-one mapping or a one-to-many mapping. Now, what is a mapping? A mapping, of course, is a relation for which for every element of the domain, remember we have said the domain represents the values of x. For every element of the domain, there exists one and only one image in the co-domain. What is a mapping? A mapping is a relation for which for every element of the domain, for every element of x, there exists one and only one image in their co-domain. Now we want to know the meaning of the following words. What is the domain of a function? What is the co-domain? And what is an image? And what is the range? Now, the domain represents the values of x, while the codomain represents the values of y. And now, what is the image? The image refers to the elements of the codomain. The image refers to the elements of y that are related to the elements of their domain. And the range now, therefore, will be the set of all their images. The image refers to the elements of the codomain, which are related to the elements of the domain, while the range is a set. So remember that the range is a set, and the range is a set of what their images. And on functions, we are going to take an example of a function which is a mapping, since we have said a function is a one-to-one mapping, and that a mapping is a relation for which for every element of the domain, there exists only one image. So an example of a mapping can be, we can have a set. The first set, the set domain, the domain set. We can have the elements A, B, and C related to the elements of the codomain. Remember, the codomain is the second set, and we have said the domain represents the values of x, while the codomain represents the values of y. And of course, if A, B, C relates to A1, B1, C1, and A is related to A1, B is related to B1, and C is related to C1. This is a clear example of a mapping. A mapping is a relation for which for every element of the domain, there exists only one image in the co-domain. And of course, in this case, our range of this function will be, the range will be a set. Remember, we said the range is a set of all their images. So the range of this relation will be A1, B1, C1. But if we have a second example, of relation, and in this case we have the set A, B, C being related to the set A1, B1, C1, D1, and A is related to A1, B is related to B1, C is related to C1. In this case, we want to get the range of this relation. Our range of this, our relation will be, again, remember we said the range refers to the elements of their codomain, which are related to all the elements of their domain. Or the range is the set of images. In this case, our range there, we are going to have what? A1, B1, and what? C1. D1 will not be part of the range because D1 is not an image, or D1 is not related to any element of the domain set. Now, the next thing we are going to look at is how to find specific values of elements under a given function. And when given a function, let's say we have a function f of x. We have a function f of x equal to 2x minus 3. And you are asked to find the value of f of 0. What is f of 0? Remember that our function was f of x equal to 2x minus 3, and we are asked to find the value of f of 0. Now, in this case here, you observe that in this our function, x here has been replaced with 0. So what is f of 0? F of 0 will mean that we are going to go to our function, which f of x, which is 2x minus 3, and anywhere we see x in this function, we are going to replace it with 0. So therefore, we are going to have f of 0 to give us 2 times 0. Please, whenever you are representing or replacing the values of x, always put it in brackets. So we are going to have 2 times 0 minus 3. And of course, 2 times 0 gives us 0, and 0 minus 3, the answer is minus 3. Now, we are going to, I will leave you with an example while we take a break. So you are going to look for the value of f of 3 using this function. When we come back from our break, we are going to see those who are going to have the answers correctly. While we are taking the break, we expect that our televiewers should be looking for the values of f of 3.
The case of Pom that migrated from Babesi because their leader had been tricked to kill all the male birth of Pom. When he realized that, he committed suicide. And the Com people who saw it as an ill omen were forced to migrate and finally settled to lie.
This is Education Today.
Hello, televiewers. You are welcome to yet another edition of Education Today. In Education Today, our focus will be on logic, specifically looking at terms and one other section, which is translating propositions into standard or logical form. But this aspect of terms is limited to the first circle.
Audio Jungle.
You desire to obtain an HND, HPD, and BTech quality professional training in marketing, banking and finance, insurance, management, electrical communications, and electronic engineering, among others? Go to the Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, at Checkpoint Boya. Register now. Spaces are limited. Contact 6754-02-368 or 677-886-820. Log on to www.hipmat.org. HIPMAT, the University for Professionals.
Welcome back, televiewers. Of course, before we took the commercial break, I gave an exercise that you should look for the value of f of 3. Now, let us see if your answer is correct. Now, in this case, what is f of 3? F of 3 will mean that we are still going to go back to our function f of x, and anywhere we see x, we are going to replace it with 3. So f of 3 will give us 2 times the value of x there is 3 minus 3. Now we start by multiplying. What is 2 times 3? 2 times 3 gives us 6. And what is 6 minus 3? 6 minus 3 is 3. So for those of you who have the answer 3, our f of 3, the correct answer is 3. And we have said that f of 3 means that you should go back to the function f of x, and in this case the value of x there, you are replacing it with 3. Another example would be to find the value of f of minus 2. What is f of minus 2? If you clearly observe, in this case our function, our value of x here is minus 2, so we are going to go back to the function, and anywhere we see x, we replace it with negative 2. So we are going to have 2 times negative 2 minus 3. And what is 2 times negative 2? Of course, 2 times 2 is 4, and since 2 is a positive number, when you multiply a positive number by a negative number, the answer is negative. And 2 times 2 will give us 4, and 4 minus 3. Of course, how do you add two numbers with the same sign? Minus 4 minus 3 is the same as minus 4 plus minus 3. So we are adding two numbers with the same sign. To add two numbers with the same sign, first of all, add the numbers without the sign. So to add the numbers, you're going to have 3 plus 4, and then the answer takes the sign of the biggest number. Or in short form, we say we maintain the sign. So minus 4 minus 3, our answer will be negative 7. So the value of f of negative 2 will be negative 4 minus 3. And of course, negative 4 minus 3, as I said, means we're adding two numbers with the same sign. Adding two numbers with the same sign, we add the two numbers without the sign, and of course maintain the sign of the biggest number. So that is how we find specific values of elements under a given function. We are going to look at example 2. In example 2, we have the function. Maybe this time f of x or g of x. Let's take the function g of x. G of x is given to us as x squared minus 3x plus 2. And you are asked to find or evaluate the value of question A. Evaluate the value of f of negative 3. Here will be g, since our function is g. So we want to find the value of g of negative 3. What is g of negative 3? Of course, our function is g of x, which means that our value of x here has been replaced with negative 3. And so g of negative 3 will mean that you go to the function g of x, and in this case, anywhere you see x, you are going to replace it with negative 3. And remember, I said that each time you are replacing the values of x, please always put the values of x in brackets. So we are replacing x with negative 3. We are going to have x, which is negative 3, and then all of that is squared. Minus 3 times negative 3, since x is negative 3, plus 2. And what is negative 3 squared? Negative 3 squared here means we should multiply negative 3 by negative 3. And minus 3 times negative 3 plus 2. And negative 3 times negative 3. To multiply two numbers, you start by multiplying their signs. Negative times negative gives us positive, and 3 times 3 gives us 9. Again, negative 3 times negative 3. Negative times negative gives us positive, and 3 times 3 gives us 9 plus 2. And what is positive 9 plus 9 plus 2? 9 plus 9 is 18, and 18 plus 2 gives us 20. Therefore, the value of g of negative 3 is 20. And remember, g of negative 3 means you replace the values of x with what? Negative 3. Now, question B. If you are asked to find for what values of x will g of x be equal to 0? For what values of x will g of x be equal to 0? Of course, g of x is a function which is defined, and g of x is defined as the function which is x squared minus 3x plus 2. So what are the values of x for which this function will be what? 0. We now come and replace our g of x with the function that was given. The function that was given is x squared minus 3x plus 2, and so that should be equal to 0. You are now left with a quadratic equation, and this quadratic equation can be solved using the formula method or the method of factorization. So our formula method to solve this quadratic equation, Remember, the formula for a quadratic equation is x equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and all of that we divide by 2a. Okay, so dear televiewers, you are going to use this formula, but before we go on a commercial break, I will tell you what are the values of a, b, and c. The value of a is the coefficient of x squared. X squared, the coefficient of x squared here is 1, and b is the coefficient of x, which is minus 3, and c is the coefficient of x, which is plus 2. So you use this formula and come out with the values of x while we take a break.
Audio Jungle.
You desire to obtain an HND, HPD, and BTech quality professional training in marketing, banking and finance, insurance, management, electrical communications, and electronic engineering, among others? Go to the Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, at Checkpoint Boya. Register now. Spaces are limited. Contacts 6754-02-368 or 677-886-820. Log on to www.hipmat.org. HIPMAT, the University for Professionals.
Education Today is a program that is geared towards empowering students of both the commercial and the grammar sector of our secondary schools institutions, a program that brings teachers of different caliber, dimensions, and individual subject matters who have masteries of these subjects, chief examiners, invigilators, in order to empower youth on some key aspects in order to tackle public examinations. This is Education Today.
At any point in time where a temp
Welcome back, televiewers. Before we went on a commercial break, we had a question, and we were to solve or find the values of x for which g of x is 0, and the function g of x was given as x squared minus 3x plus 2. And I said this is now a quadratic equation, and this quadratic equation can be solved using the factorization method or using the formula method. For those of you who will like to use the formula method, the formula is x equal minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of this divided by 2a. Please take note. In most cases, students always misinterpret this formula. This formula is not just the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a, but the line, the division, the line for the division should go across minus b and the square root, because in some cases in the multiple choice you might be deceived with this formula. Of course, if you write the formula like this, the formula is wrong because minus b is not divided by 2a. So make sure that in writing your formula, the line should get across minus b with the square root. Of course, we have said that what is the a? What is a? A in our equation is the coefficient, the number that is found in front of x squared. Our number in front of x squared here is 1, so therefore a is 1. What is b? B is the number found in front of x, and the number found in front of x here is minus 3. And what is c? Of course, c is the constant, and our constant there is plus 2. So we are going to come to this our formula. Anywhere we see a, we replace it with 1. Anywhere we see b, we replace with negative 3. Anywhere we see c, we are going to replace with positive 2. So that will give us values of x to be minus, this minus, yeah? And b, what is b? We have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of course, b, which is negative 3, we square, minus 4 times a. A is 1 and c is 2. And all of that we are dividing by 2 times a, which is 1. And of course, this will give us, remember, minus minus becomes positive. So we are going to have 3 plus or minus the square root of minus 3 squared is 9. And minus 4 times 1, minus 4 times 1 is minus 4, times 2 is minus 8. All of that we now divide by 2. And of course, you now work with what is inside the square root. What is inside the square root there? We are going to have 9 minus 8. And what is 9 minus 8? 9 minus 8 gives us 1. So here is just the same as 3 plus or minus the square root of 1 on 2. And what is the square root of 1? The square root of 1 is 1. So x is 3 plus or minus 1. 3 plus or minus 1 on 2. And plus or minus means it can be positive or it can be what? Negative. Now, in the case where x is positive, the value of x will be x equal 3 plus 1 on 2. And in the case where x is negative, the value of x will be x equal 3 minus 1 on 2. And that will give us values of x to be, what is 3 plus 1? 3 plus 1 is 4, and 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. And in this case, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 gives us x equal 1. Therefore, our values of x for which the function g of x equal to 0 is x equal 2 and x equal 1. So, for those of you who have the answers as x equal 2 and x equal 1, bravo to you. And we are going to take a break. While we come back, we are going to be looking at the domain of a function.
Audio Jungle.
You desire to obtain an HND, HPD, and BTech quality professional training in marketing, banking and finance, insurance, management, electrical communications, and electronic engineering, among others? Go to the Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, at Checkpoint Boya. Register now. Spaces are limited. Contacts 6754-02-368 or 677-886-820. Log on to www.hipmat.org. HIPMAT, the University for Professionals.
And that term becomes D. In the conclusion, our answer becomes what? Invalid. And hence it has committed the fallacy of what? Illicit. Either major or what? Minor.
The case of Pom that migrated from Badesi because their leader had been tricked to kill all the male birth of Pom. When he realized that, he committed suicide. And the Com people who saw it as an ill omen were forced to migrate and finally settled to lie Com.
This is Education Today.
Hello, televiewers.
With the high demand of professionalism across the globe, C Media Academy hereby train and build capacities in the following domains: video editing, camera operating, photography, graphic designing, 2D and 3D animation, audio production, TV production, video production, film production, etc. We train technicians right and ready for the job market. We are located at Malingo Street, Munya Road, Moliko Boya. We offer all-round-the-clock training. Contact 697-87-29-76 or 677-29-1300. C Media Academy. Creativity is never enough.
Welcome back, televiewers. Okay, Bridget just sent us a question that she did not understand how to solve f of 3. Remember, our function f of x was given as 2x minus 3. And please, dear viewers, you can send your questions on the numbers you find below the screen. And please, while sending your questions, mention the name, your name and where you are sending the question. So this one is for Bridget. Bridget, we gave our function was f of x equal 2x minus 3. And you are told to find the value of f of 3. Now, how do you find the value of a given function given a particular value of x? Remember, this is f of x. If you can clearly see here, you observe that in this function, f or x has been replaced with what? 3. Therefore, what is f of 3? F of 3 means you should go back to the function f of x, and in this case, where you see x, where you see this x, replace the x with the value of 3. So f of 3 will now become 2 times what is x? X is given to us as 3, so we are going to replace that with 3 minus 3. And you now carry out your multiplication. 2 times 3 is 6, and what is 6 minus 3? 6 minus 3 gives us 3. So I hope Bridget has understood how to look for the value of a given function. Whenever you are given a particular value of x, it means you should replace that value of x with that given value of that function. Okay, now I said we are going to be looking at the domain of a function. What is the domain of a function? Domain of a function, the domain of a function gives you the values of x. The domain of a function are the values of x for which the function is defined. The domain of a function are those values of x that makes that function to be defined. And generally, the domain of all functions is written as x is an element of what? The set of real numbers. So whenever you see this thing on the side of your function, it means that that is the domain of that function. And it is read as x belongs to the set of real numbers. Now, sometimes you are going to see x is an element of set of real numbers excluding 2, or they put 2 in braces. Now, in this case, it means that that function has a domain of the set of real numbers, but the value of 2 can make that function to become undefined. So in that case, it means that 2 does not belong to the domain set of that function. In the case where we have a function as f of x equal 4 minus x, of course, what is the domain of this our function? The domain of this function is the set of real numbers. If we have another function, g of x equal to 3x plus 1 over 2, of course, the domain of this function will still be the set of real numbers. But if we take a case of the function f of x equal 1 minus x divided by x, we observe that for this function, there is a particular value of x that can make this function to be undefined. And how do you determine that value of x? To determine that value of x, take the function in the denominator and equate to what? 0. So in this case, you observe that in the function h of x, when you fit the value of 0, we are going to have here 1 divided by 0, and 1 divided by 0 in mathematics, we say it is what? Undefined. So therefore, you observe that the function h is undefined when x is 0. So the domain of the function h will be written as x is an element of the set of real numbers, but x should not take the value of what? 0. And I explain again. The reason why x will not take the value of 0 is because when you substitute 0 in the denominator of this function becomes 0, and the denominator of a function should never be 0. Because if the denominator of a function is 0, the function becomes undefined. So therefore, I'm going to give you some exercises. You are going to state the domains of the following functions. G of x equal x squared minus 1 on 3, and h of x equal 2x plus 3 divided by x minus 1. So you find the domains of the function g and find the domain of the function h, taking into consideration that both functions g and h have domains which are all set of real numbers. But I want to see the values of x that will exclude the domain of h or the domain of g. Okay, again, we are going to now look at the inverse of a function. What is the inverse of a function? So, dear televiewers, we are going to end here for today. And while we come next time, we are going to be looking at the inverse of a function. But first, try to carry out these two exercises to get the domains of the function g and the function h. We are going to be having a commercial, and immediately after this, we are going to be having literature in English by Mr. Simon Richard.
Audio Jungle.
You desire to obtain an HND, HPD, and BTech quality professional training in marketing, banking and finance, insurance, management, electrical communications, and electronic engineering, among others? Go to the Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, at Checkpoint Boya. Register now. Spaces are limited. Contact 6754-02-368 or 677-886-820. Log on to www.hipmat.org. HIPMAT, the University for Professionals.
With the high demand of professionalism across the globe, C Media Academy hereby train and build capacities in the following domains: video editing, camera operating, photography, graphic designing, 2D and 3D animation, audio production, TV production, video production, film production, etc. We train technicians right and ready for the job market. We are located at Malingo Street, Munya Road, Moliko Boya. We offer all-round-the-clock training. Contact 697-87-29-76 or 677-29-1300. C Media Academy. Creativity is never enough.
Education Today is a program that is geared towards empowering students of both the commercial and the grammar sector of our secondary schools institutions, a program that brings teachers of different caliber, dimensions, and individual subject matters who have masteries of these subjects, chief examiners, invigilators, in order to empower youth on some key aspects in order to tackle public examinations. This is Education Today.
At any point in time where a term is U up in any of the premises and that term becomes D, in the conclusion, our answer becomes what? Invalid, and hence it has committed the fallacy of what? Illicit, either major or what? Minor.
Good evening, fellow televiewers, and welcome to the second phase of our program, Education Today, sponsored by the Mentor Foundation. I am Simon Richard. I'm here to give you lectures on literature in English at the advanced level. And my main point of focus is our husband has gone mad again. And today we are going to capitalize on the detailed analysis of the plot of the story. Okay, we all know very well that Our Husband Has Gone Mad Again is written by a Nigerian who is actually known as Ola Rotimi. Ola Rotimi is actually a Nigerian playwright, and he is actually the author of Our Husband Has Gone Mad Again. So, as far as the play is concerned, we have the main character here, who is actually known as Lejoka Brown. So we shall capitalize on Lejoka Brown, and then we'll have names like Liza Tayanta, which is of immense importance. After Liza Tayanta, we are going to have Sikira, then we have Mama Rashida. Also of immense importance is the role that Okonkwo is going to play here. Okay, so Lejoka Brown is actually presented to us as a military officer who actually decided to resign from the military in order to venture into politics. But what we have to understand here is that Lejoka Brown ventures into politics not because he has a political platform with which he intends to share with the people, but simply because he is targeting what he considers to be the national cake or the national chin-chin. So here we sense the theme of embezzlement. And this is actually the system of most of the African leaders today. Okay, let us actually carry out a brief background of Lejoka Brown before he could invest into politics. Lejoka Brown, while a soldier, was actually on a peacekeeping mission in the Congo. So, in a fierce battle that actually followed, he received a bullet on the thigh. And after receiving a bullet on the thigh, he was rushed to the hospital. And at that particular time, Liza Tayanta, a Kenyan by nationality, was actually a medical student assisting the Red Cross. This lady had succeeded in healing Lejoka Brown. Within this period of the healing exercise, one or two things happened, and Lejoka Brown fell in love with Liza Tayanta, and they both accepted to get married. But yet, there was a small complication. 2 days before the wedding, Lejoka Brown received a letter from his father back in Nigeria, telling him that his elder brother has died in a train accident. And because of the elder brother's death, he has decided to go into the volume of wives that his elder brother had, and has realized that Mama Rashida is of actually outstanding behavior. So he has decided to marry Mama Rashida for Lejoka Brown. So this is an aspect of culture now. Lejoka Brown actually has to get married to Mama Rashida, not out of love, but out of practical necessity. So therefore, Mama Rashida becomes Lejoka Brown's inherited wife. You find a clash of culture here. Now, 2 days, this happens 2 days before his wedding to Liza Tayanta. Lejoka Brown, as secretive as he is, does not actually inform Liza Tayanta of this new development. He actually goes ahead and marries Liza Tayanta. Liza Tayanta has the mistaken belief that she is the only wife and the legitimate wife to Lejoka Brown. Okay, but yet, a few months after that, Liza Tayanta is issued a scholarship to study medicine in America. So she actually travels to America with the mistaken belief that she is the only wife to Lejoka Brown. And shortly after that, since Liza is no longer in the Congo, Lejoka Brown resigns from the army and then returns to Nigeria to open up his father's cocoa farm, which is actually giving him money. But he has decided to invest this money into politics. Okay, to foster his political career, Lejoka Brown gets married to a second wife called Sikira. All this behind the back of his legally married wife, Liza Tayanta, who is studying in America with the mistaken illusion that she is the only wife to Lejoka Brown. Now, Lejoka Brown gets married to Sikira not out of love, but to foster his political career. Why do we say it is to foster his political career? Sikira's mother, Madame Bambina, happens to be the president of the National Union of Nigerian Market Women. So, through this particular woman, Lejoka Brown intends to cajole the market women into casting their votes in his favor. But he has a secret plan to show you how diabolic he is. That secret plan is, immediately after the elections, after he must have won the elections, he will actually settle Sikira with a lump sum of money to begin a trade, or, if possible, marry again. Sikira and the mother are not aware of this secret plan. Take note. Then, Mama Rashida will remain in the house that he has inherited from his father. Mama Rashida will stay there. Then, he will move now to the government house at the minister's quarters on Victoria Island with Liza Tayanta. But all this is actually happening 5 months before the elections. So, Lejoka Brown has been sending letters to Liza Tayanta. Please don't come to Nigeria until after the elections. Because he knows perfectly well that if Liza Tayanta comes back after he must have won the elections and discovers that he has 2 other wives, there is nothing she can do about that because he has already won the election. But yet, if Liza Tayanta returns and realizes that he has 2 other wives, this may affect his election stakes and there will be marital problem. Because according to the text, Liza Tayanta is a Catholic. She practices what is known as Catholicism. So by virtue of the Catholic tradition, she is supposed to actually get married to a man. And she believes that the man must practice nothing but monogamy. 1 man, 1 wife. That is it. Okay. He has been writing letters. When the play opens, Lejoka Brown is actually in a sitting room, performing his military antics and so on and so forth, which actually makes the play melodramatic. He's singing and then marching. He's actually joined in this particular antics by his friend Okonkwo. But later, he actually makes it clear to Okonkwo that he has decided to venture into politics not because he has
a steady political platform to share with the Nigerians, but simply because he's targeting the national cake or the national chin-chin. And to him, he says, the national cake is something that you will chew, and you know that you have chewed something. So that is actually a replica of a bad leader. Okay, we will actually have a commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue.
Audio Jungle.
You desire to obtain an HND, HPD, and BTech quality professional training in marketing, banking and finance, insurance, management, electrical communications, and electronic engineering, among others? Go to the Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, at Checkpoint Boya. Register now. Spaces are limited. Contacts 6754-02-368 or 677-886-820. Log on to www.hipmat.org. HIPMAT, the University for Professionals.
Education Today is a program that is geared towards empowering students of both the commercial and the grammar sector of our secondary schools institutions, a program that brings teachers of different caliber, dimensions, and individual subject matters who have masteries of these subjects, chief examiners, invigilators, in order to empower youth on some key aspects in order to tackle public examinations.